Plus, he's
Amazon Prime.
really cute, so it really helps with the storyline when
Yeah, yeah,
he's really cute.
yeah. Reacher is what we're talking about,
Reacher is
not my
who I.
friend.
Jay's
He's
great.
cute too. Yeah. Hey everyone, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Better Merch, Better Marketing podcast. Super excited to be chatting with you today. I am one of your hosts, Kirby Hasseman, and joining me, as she does each and every time, the award-winning Jade Kreider. How are you?
I'm so good. How are you?
Doing well, doing well. The weather has finally started to break a little bit in Ohio. I know we talk about the weather. It seems like at the
We do.
beginning
It's
of
like
each
our
podcast.
go-to.
Yeah, but it really does, unfortunately, affect my outlook on all of my life at this point. Just so excited about things. It got up to like 65 degrees yesterday. I literally went home in dress pants and dress clothes and just sat on the ground on my driveway in the sun. That was my go-to for just brightening my day. So I'm doing very, very well. Everything going all right with you?
Yeah, especially when you work from home, the weather is a big because I don't leave the house, and so
Yep.
when it's nice out, that's my only chance to get I'm not forced to get fresh air when it's freezing outside. So I really look forward to sitting on the back porch and doing a little bit of work and sitting in my hammock on my lunch break and stuff like that. So I do think it is a big determiner of your mood. I feel like a lot of times. So
absolutely. Well, I'm glad you're
I
doing
also
well.
love Christmas. So
Yeah, okay, so it's,
I like all the seasons,
Yeah, that's good. Well, so we're going to give you some random facts about us, but if you've never listened to the Better Marketing podcast, it's brought to you by Hasseman Marketing. And as you might expect, we're working to try and elevate your business by helping you do merch better, do your marketing just a little bit better. And, we've been talking about our customer show. You can learn more about us at HassemanMarketing.com, but we just wanted to give a shout out to PPAI. We found out yesterday afternoon, right about this time, that we were recognized in the Online 18, which is essentially a list that recognizes some of the top organizations when it comes to digital marketing and social media. And as an organization that does that for us and for our clients, we were pretty pumped about that.
Yeah, I was really excited, and I told Dad I actually didn't read the article when I first saw it, and so reading the article was very flattering, and it was really cool, and I'm excited about it.
Yeah, it's one of those where we were just before we started recording. I'm excited because it's such a team effort. Like literally, the article recognizes the effort that Jade has put in. So, and I love that. But it's also like literally every single person who's in our building and as a part of our organization has their fingers in it, and I love that. I just love that we can celebrate that together. So, that's really cool. So, thanks PPA. I appreciate it.
And on brand, we posted a TikTok about being a social media person. So, it feels on brand.
Yeah, we posted pictures, we posted TikToks, blogs.
It feels right.
Brand.
It felt like you had to,
100%. All right. So I want to dive in today. We have talked about in the past about podcasts that really drive us and help us. We've talked about a bunch of different things. And one of the things that I love to read, I love to listen to books. And so I'd suggested that maybe let's talk books today. Books that they can be sort of personal development books, it can be fiction books, whatever is on your mind, Jade Kreider. So what are some of your favorite books?
If you watch any of our content, specifically Thirsty Thursday, you know that our team likes to get on me about what I read. So I am starting strong with ACOTAR. I read a lot of fantasy romance. But specifically the third book in the ACOTAR series. And if you know what ACOTAR is, you know what it is. It's A Court of Thorns and Roses. The third one is ACA War, and it is literally about war. It is really good. So that's my top favorite. I cried. I laughed. It's also, I read it in the middle of a deployment, so it was a great distraction for my brain. So it has an extra piece of love there. So it's one of my favorites.
Yeah. We do tease you a little bit about that, but
you do. But it's also great books. So I don't care.
Yeah. Well, and the funny thing is that it's really taken off as a whole like genre of books. I mean, you can't go anywhere without seeing not only that book per se, but like that style of book has really taken off. So that's pretty cool. For me, and I'm going to go fiction as well on this, and not a specific book, but the Jack Reacher series of books. I've read every single one of them that's out. And of course, there's now a just Reacher series. It's fantastic, by the way, if you haven't seen that. I'm not a big, like, I don't watch a lot of TV series. Reacher's the one I watch, so it's in season 3, and I've seen. Actually, you'll get a kick out of this, Jade. I have a men's group that I get together with, and at my last one, my buddy Jay had never even heard of it, and so the whole group was like, "Oh no, it's really, really good." So a month later, he came in and he's like, "Hey, thanks for telling me about that. I'm caught up. I've seen every single episode." So
plus,
Amazon
he's
Prime.
really cute, so it really helps with the storyline when you know he's really cute.
Yeah, Reacher is what we're talking about.
Reacher is who Jay's
he's
great.
Cute too. Yeah.
I don't know, but he's your age. So, anyways, my next one. My next one is going to be the book that actually got me into reading. I don't always love this author all the time. However, she has a special place in my heart because for the longest time I wouldn't read. But Verity by Colleen Hoover. She doesn't, some of the fantasy ones I read are very deep. Like, you have to really get into these books, and there's a lot of world building. This is a very surface book. It's a one book. It's not a series. One singular book. It's got some crime. It's got some romance. It's got a little bit of spice. It's got all the things, and it's a quick read. It's like less than 300, or maybe right around 300 pages, and I got Mom to read it, and she's given away my book.
It's true. It's true. I was there.
She gave away I actually got 2 more so that now I can give them away, because it's got a special place because it kind of got me back into my reading kick, and now it's one of my favorite things to do as a hobby.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to stick with the fiction, and I had a whole list because I didn't know where we were going to go with this. As you know, I read a lot. So Ender's Game by Orson Scott Card. It's one that I read when I was very young. I've probably reread it 10 or 15 times. It is a science fiction book, obviously set way in the future. But Ender his name's Andrew, and he's like, essentially they've created military schools where the Earth has to defend itself, and he becomes one of the leaders of this, and it's really thoughtful, really interesting. And like I say, they made a movie out about it, and unfortunately those kind of things almost always ruin the book.
Never quite as good.
Yeah, Ender's Game is one of my favorite all-time books. It's just I could pick it up anytime and read it.
So you're saying that, now I have a recommendation for you, because John just read a similar book, but it's the more recent one, so it's Red Rising, so you'll have to read that next. Anyways, it's a series, though, so be prepared that you're getting into a series. My last one is actually a self-help, so it's a little bit different, but it's one that I've been reading for a really long time, and I still haven't finished it. It's 101 essays that change the way you think. So it's literally a book, and each chapter is just a different essay. So some of them are really short, some of them are really long, but they're good, just kind of pick-me-ups whenever I'm in a funk or whatever is going on. It's just kind of a nice, it's my dragon book.
Got it. All right, love it. We both are dying to make the joke, right? Like it's fine. Okay, so since you went personal development, and there's a number in it, like, just in case you didn't think I was prepared with books, I'm going to go personal development with a number in it, and that's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. It was written back in like the 70s or 80s, but by Stephen Covey, but it's still one of those, quintessential personal development books. A lot of other books are built upon some of the foundation stuff there. You may have heard this story, Jade, but our 3 listeners might not have. I read that book, and I was like, yeah, it's fine. But you know how in books, especially personal development books, they'll be like, okay, now stop what you're doing, stop reading, and then make a list of everything you would buy if you had all the money in the world. And then stop what you're doing. Yeah, I never do those things. I just keep reading, right? Well, then probably a couple years later, I actually went into a class where it was a 7 Habits class, and it was led by actually Amy Crown was one of the teachers, and Bill Weaver, who's a friend of mine. And I went through a 3-day course. The Longaberg Company paid for me to go to this. And I went through it, but they make you do all the exercises, right? Like, you watch the videos, you do all that, and then you do the exercises. And then I quit my job. It changed the trajectory of my whole life, because I realized all the stuff that mattered to me that I wanted to do, the things, like, none of it was related to what I was doing. And so I
Mm-hmm.
literally, within a week, I think, of taking that course, I quit my job at the Longaberger company and went out to do this. So how
I
about
love
that?
it. I love it.
Yeah.
I
So
will
there
say
you go.
I'm curious to see if anybody has any other recommendations. So one of the
Yes.
things I've challenged myself this year, I said it in one of the earlier podcasts, is to read a different variety of books. I am known to just read my romance and my fantasy romance. So I'm reading Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen, and I'm reading a couple different self-help books. And I don't have the Mel Robbins ones, but those are on my list of things that I'd like to
Mhm.
get at some point. So if anybody has some really good ones that maybe aren't about dragons, I won't read it right away,
Sure.
but it might happen at some point.
I
So,
like it. I like it. And then my final shout out is just anything by Harlan Coben. I think I
oh,
talked to
okay.
you at one point about that. Like
I believe you.
anything. So yeah, I would say any author that people like,
Hmm.
and any recommendations. I love those all the time. So that's
Yeah,
good.
send all the
Cool.
good books our way.
I
Got to
love
grow
it.
my library over here.
Yeah.
Next, we are going to be talking about some of the most underrated branded merch, promotional product items that you can do. And I'm
Mhm.
actually really excited about this because I thought about doing a social media series on this. So I'm excited to see kind of your thoughts, and then maybe we'll break it up into a TikTok video at some point.
Ooh, I like it. Okay.
So I'm gonna go
Why don't you
first.
start?
Sorry, I
Yeah.
said that, and then I was like, actually, I'm gonna go first. So my first one is a desk mat. I currently have
Mm,
one underneath my keyboard right now, and it's something that, in my opinion, I was actually talking about this ahead of time. The desk mats are something that once you get, you can put your logo on any spot. Once I have one desk mat, I'm never getting another. This thing's
mm,
going to have to peel in half for me to
yeah.
replace it, but it's
Yeah.
so nice because my mouse can always go, and I have a nice big one, so it covers most of my desk so that I can use it anytime. It protects my desk if I put a drink down, anything like that. And it also just looks very sleek. And so I think it's one of those that kind of organizes your space and you're not going to replace, especially if you go a little bit more subtle with the imprint. I think
Yeah.
it's something that will just stay on somebody's desk forever.
That's a really good one. I like that a lot. I actually don't have one here at this office, but
Mm.
that I've
Hmm.
designed my home office to be pretty much similar, and I do have one there. And
Hmm.
I've got the DeBossed logo, and you're right.
Yeah.
It's like it's so subtle and it looks really good.
Yeah.
And yeah, I like that one.
It's a game
Um,
changer.
okay, so I'm gonna go beach towel. So
Hmm.
beach towel is ginormous imprint area. It's not something you think about. This is what the whole idea was, underrated, right? So it's not
Hmm.
something you think about all the time. So
Hmm.
it has a high perceived value. It is a gifted item. So whether you give it to your employees, whether you give it
Hmm.
to a customer, you do it on an incentive trip, whatever it is, right? Like
Hmm.
the perceived value of it's really high. I love any item where it's like you spend $20, but your person thinks it's 30 or 40, right?
Uh,
So,
yeah,
and then the other one is there's a study that's, or the reason is this, there's a study that says the average beach towel is kept at least 7 years.
I believe that.
Yeah, I
That's
actually,
so easy to believe.
yeah, and I'm like, when have you thrown away a beach towel? Like, I actually think
Mm-mm.
7 might be low, right?
Yeah.
like, so that was my number one, was a beach towel.
That's a good one. And if nothing else, they become like work around the house towels. Like, because we have
Yeah.
one or two towels that are really old that I got at Walmart 20 years ago. 20 years ago. I'm 20. I'm just kidding. I'm not. But I would have been 4 when I got it. Um, but still, those have just become like, oh crap, we spilled something towels. So that's
Yeah.
so smart. They still haven't gotten thrown away.
Yeah.
My next one is going to be some type of luggage or bigger
Mm,
duffel bag.
yeah.
It's something that, again, it's really good to have, whether you're moving, whether you're traveling, whether you're just doing an overnight kind of bag. Especially if it's done right, if it's a piece that's done right, and again, not an obnoxious logo, but a nice
Yeah.
looking, right, kind of in the center where you can see it, but it doesn't take up the whole bag. I think that's something that you keep when it's a good one. I think they can get donated if they're, not as nice, but I have backpacks in here that I don't necessarily use all the time, but I love them. And so
Yeah.
on occasion, they're the perfect thing and they're just great to have. And of course, I have my backpack that goes with me everywhere. So,
Well, that's the thing. I mean, when you talk about people are still working from home, people are still working from the
hmm.
road. Yeah, I like that. And again, high perceived value plays in that one.
Hmm.
And I'm going to go with a specific. So we are big fans of calendars. It's just one of
Hmm.
those things, whether you know it or not, we're in the sign business, right? And so
Hmm.
anytime I can get a sign of my information and I can put it on my customer's wall
Hmm.
for a year, I feel like that's valuable. But I'm going to go more specifically to year at a glance calendars. The big ones that you can, like, I have one all the time on my wall. As a matter of fact, this is where you can keep, you and I need to work on getting this for us, right? Because
Yes.
I have client one, and I love it because I can plan out my whole year and be like, okay, I want to do
Mm-hmm.
this event. So, and I love custom. So colorful, something cool
Mm-hmm.
looking, but a custom year at a glance calendar where I can see the entirety of the year, of what's going on. I think that's underrated, and they're not that expensive either, which I love. So,
Mm-hmm. My last one is it's done a little bit more frequently than some of the others. However, I don't think it's something that I do a good job of talking about myself personally. So that's why I'm calling it
mhm.
underrated is chapstick and lip balm,
Oh
whatever you
yeah,
want to call it.
fur
It's one of those
days.
where like I always have 7 chapsticks around me. I don't throw a chapstick away. I'm not going to throw it away
Yes.
until it's gone. And ironically, I'm one of those people that has so many that they never run out. And so like
Mm.
I think it's one of those that everybody can use it. Everybody and their brother and their kid and their dog and their everything can, the dog might not use it, but still like everybody can use them.
Might
And
try.
he probably has, but a lot of them have a nice size imprint area. I can pull one out without even trying. They have a nice size imprint area. You can get eco-friendly. They're not expensive.
Yeah, they're
It's just a
very
nice option.
affordable.
Yeah.
So yeah, I actually really like this one. I wish I would have thought of this one. That's a really good one. So deeply
Thanks.
personal. It's a
Mm-hmm.
consumable. You put it on your face. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's very personal as a brand. The other
Mm-hmm.
thing, and I want to give credit to this, Doug Langer. Remember Dr. Promo? He just recently
Uh-huh.
retired. So he's the one who
Yes.
told me this, but there's a statistic that says that 40% of our population is addicted to lip balm. It's a legal
I'm one of them.
substance, right? And so the perceived value is really high. So
Mm-hmm.
you might spend 99 cents on it, but your customer who's addicted to it is willing to pay $5 at retail. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's yeah, that's I like that one a lot.
And again, they're ones I have 3 of them. Like once you have, of course, this is
Yeah.
Aquaforce. It's a little different. Like once you have them, they don't leave.
Yeah.
There's one
That's a
in your
good one.
purse. There's one in the junk drawer. There's one at your desk. There's one everywhere. And so I think those are just a nice one to have around.
Love it. Cool. All right. So those are a few that we really like. And what I like about this is it's food for thought, right? Like it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
mean you got to run out and do lip balm or a beach towel or whatever, but
Mm-hmm.
my hope is that as people listen to this, they go, oh, I hadn't thought about that for my next
Mm-hmm.
campaign or whatever. So
Just something
look,
different.
yeah, a little food for thought. Um, the fact is, just like now, we are creating content. We're constantly trying to be creative on the marketing side of our business. But stress happens, right? Like, so
Mm-hmm.
what do you do when you feel burned out, right? How do you stay
Mm-hmm.
creative? How do you stay on top of your game when you are burned out? And I think this is a great time of year for
Mm-hmm.
this discussion, because I think, a lot of times we start the year off and we've got our new goals and we're ready to rock and roll. But
Mm-hmm.
after a couple months, sometimes you get a little fried.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we wanted to do today was kind of to give you a few things that we do when we are struggling with this, ways to keep
Mm-hmm.
the ideas flowing when our motivation might dip. So we didn't decide, but do you want me to go
I
first
don't
or do
care.
you
I
want
have
to
a
go
lot of
first?
them. So yeah, I'll
Yeah.
go first just to do it.
Yes.
So my first one that I did, I actually made a video about this at one point. I reset my desk space. There are times in the middle of the
Mm.
day I clean off my desk, and I thankfully have a standing desk. So sometimes it's about moving my chair out of the way. I stand my desk up. I clean it off. I take the 17
Uh,
coffee mugs that collect on my desk throughout the day off of my desk, and I get a new drink of some sort and just kind of reset my desk space. Sometimes I throw on a candle or something, just kind of resetting the
I
space
love
that
that
you're
idea.
in, and then maybe throwing on some music, just something along the lines of kind of giving yourself like okay, take a deep breath and restart. And then I just kind of give myself a fresh start from that moment.
I am looking at my desk and I desperately need a reset on my desk right now.
It's funny. That's something you
Yeah,
don't think about because the
yeah,
clutter happens. And if my desk is cluttered, my brain stops working. It
yeah.
slows down immediately because I see all the things I'm easily distracted. So that's a big one for me personally.
That's a good one. I like that a lot. I didn't have that on my list, but I like
Thanks.
that. So the one that it will not surprise you, mine is exercise.
Yeah.
So go for a run and get my blood flow. I mean, and the science will tell you that that's one of the ways to do it because it
Mm-hmm.
pushes blood into your brain, right?
Yeah.
Exercise, the
Mm-hmm.
science says that exercise makes you smarter,
JQ
but it
talks about that
also,
a lot.
yeah, decreases your stress. It does all that. It makes, if I get to sweat, usually that helps me get back
Mm-hmm.
into thinking more creatively.
Mm-hmm. My next one is going to be maybe an obvious one, but a change of scenery.
Mm-hmm.
Similar to this, sometimes I just have to go outside and sit for a little bit. Sometimes I have to go to the library and sit for a minute. You just like, especially when you work from home and I know I'm preaching it as somebody from works that works from home, but
Yeah.
sometimes I have to get out of this little teeny tiny little room that is claustrophobic some days all of a sudden, and some days it feels huge. So, but when it starts to feel claustrophobic, I got to leave this bedroom. It's one of my priorities.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. Actually, my number two was to get outside, and I had a feeling that you would say it. So I'm going to go and mow, like get outside and mow.
Oh, do
Right.
something
So for
different.
me, it is literally because it's kind of a mindless exercise. And then I
Hmm.
can listen to books, I can listen to podcasts, pushing some good. It's one of the places where I can actually multitask and have it be positive. So
Hmm.
it's amazing to me how like, and I know you get messages from me. So does
Hmm.
Dustin. And the title's like thoughts from the mower. Like I
Hmm.
have time to, because we're constantly inundated with all that stuff. This is a place where it's almost meditative for me,
Yeah,
where I'm just like in this place. So mowing outside is a place for me
I
to
love that.
reset. Yeah.
That's a good one. The last one I'm gonna say, and it's a little bit different, but simply taking a break, not just to take a break, but to chat. Sometimes I
Hmm.
have to walk away and call my sister. Sometimes I have to walk away, call a friend, and just like, because if I just take a break, I'll come back. I'll come back and
Yeah.
check that email. I won't actually take a
Yeah.
break. And so calling somebody and having almost like a purpose of checking out mentally for 5 minutes is a big one for me, of having somebody to just like, oh, I get to just talk to my nephew for 5 minutes. Cool. Let's just do that
Yeah.
because I need a mental break. So that's always a
Yeah.
good one for me.
Yeah, my final one is meditation. I struggle with setting the time. Now, I'll be the first to tell you that I'm not going to stop in the middle of my workday and do it. So for me, if I want to, it helps me fend off
Mm.
creative burnout. Is that when I've built a morning routine where once I'm done working out, that's when I can find 5 to 10 minutes where I can really, because I need to cool down anyway. So just sitting
Mm.
in a chair to stop sweating is kind of good.
Fair.
But when I do that consistently, it really does help improve my creativity, decrease my
Hmm.
stress, and decrease my burnout. So those are mine.
Hmm. I
Cool.
love it. So we're going to switch to the next thing that I think everybody already knows is coming. Dad was right, dad was wrong. And I have been doing a good job of kind of alternating week by week. Dad was right, dad was wrong, which means this week would be dad was wrong. However, I'm not doing that. Dad was right.
Okay.
Um, and this one is a totally personal one, but I think it's a funny one. Every time we talk about it, people laugh. So, my dad was right is that he guessed it right. Dad's right, I'm eloping. Um, I got, if you don't know me, I got engaged on a Tuesday and I got married on a Friday. And so on Thursday, Dad got a picture of my marriage license that it was becoming official the next day. And it was one of
Mhm.
those that, I think it was the day that John, my husband, called him to ask for
Tuesday.
permission.
Yep.
That was on Monday. And then on
Hmm.
Tuesday, my husband proposed. And I think my dad called it on Monday that we were going to elope and not tell anybody. So this was my dad was right.
Hmm.
I, in fact, did that. Everybody got a picture, and I said, surprise,
Yep.
I'm married. So, well, my parents knew, but it's a really not serious one. It has nothing to do with work, but I always think it's a funny one that you predicted that from me way ahead of time.
Yeah, well, again, I think one of the things that I've learned as a father is that and I think you and I've talked a little bit about this. People talk about nature versus nurture, and I
Mm-hmm.
think that sometimes as parents we overvalue the nurture. We overvalue the impact that we have, and don't get me wrong, parenting is important, but you and Skylar were different from the moment you were born.
Mm-hmm.
Your personalities were different, all that sort of thing. And so it was when Skylar went and got married and did the bigger style wedding. Certainly
Mm-hmm.
wasn't like over the top or anything like that. It was fine,
Yeah, it's perfect.
and it was beautiful. So just in case Sky and Keith
Yeah,
listen
it
to this,
was
it was wonderful.
amazing.
But in watching that experience, you had long said um, that you didn't want that.
Hmm.
But sometimes people live through that and then they're like, well, they
That
see
wasn't
it
that
and they're like,
fun.
well, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I didn't get that vibe from you at all. And so yeah. And the reality of it is, it was funny because when John called me, I think it was the first time he'd ever actually called me ever.
Yeah, probably.
And so I was actually at an OPA event in our industry and I saw John Kreider come up on my phone. I was like, oh God, what's wrong?
Jade's
Like,
dead.
so I stepped out of the car. I stepped out, and John seemed like he was in a good mood and was real chatty. And I was like, "Oh, okay, everything's fine."
Yeah.
And so, yeah,
It's one of my
that was
favorites
a
though,
good
is that
call.
you called it pretty quickly. And so it's one of those that like I was trying to think of a dad was right, dad was wrong, and I was like, oh, dad was right on that one quick. He knew that that was happening. And that was my anniversary's coming up, so it's fresh in the brain currently. So
Totally, totally. All right. Well,
but
that's a good one, and I'm super
it's a
happy
fun
it
one.
went down like that.
Yeah.
It was, yeah, and I think that for me, people were like, were you frustrated that you weren't there or whatever? And I
Hmm.
think your mom and I were just like, no, man, it's not about us.
We got
So
lucky. We both
yeah,
have parents that were very supportive of us, so we're
yeah,
pretty
it's
lucky.
it's really good. Okay, well, cool. That's great. I always like hearing I was right. So that's good.
It's a fun one. Felt like a
Yeah,
break from
yeah, a little light.
promo. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so next up is our shout out. And so a couple things. Number one, if you have anybody that you know that is doing good work in your community, an organization, individuals, whatever, please let us know. I mean, this is one of the places where we love to do just push out some positivity, push out some good in
It's
the
fun.
world. So one of the ways we're doing it is to showcase people who are doing it. And so
Hmm.
that's what this is about. So this week, I want to give a shout out to Jim and Bobby Lepi, their husband and wife duo that were honored. Really, I think this in this past week. So Jim and Bobby Lepi were recognized for Dresden and Company and Lepi and Associates Real Estate Services, respectively, by Ohio Business Magazine's 2024 Most Influential Leaders annual section. So like
It's huge.
I know Jim and Bobby and we do some work with Lepi. And so I saw this and was like really proud of them. And I think it has to do with the businesses they run, the people they employ, the community and the give back that they do as individuals. And so
Hmm.
I thought that was super cool. And so it's just a shout out. So thank you for all your work that you do in the area. So there were some other people who were also mentioned with Dr. Vicky King Maple, which is really cool. Matt Abbott, who's Muskingum County Port Authority, and some other folks that do really good work in our area. So Bobby, Jim, Lepi, thanks for all you do. Congratulations. That's cool. Good stuff. Yep. All right. Well, so that is, I think, going to wrap up this edition of Better Merch, Better Marketing. But please let us know. Let's. I think we wanted interesting feedback on some merch, right? If there's underrated merch that you think has been really cool for your organization, what books do we, should we be knowing about? Remember Jade really likes the spice. It's a little uncomfortable for
Kirby,
me,
what
but
did we talk about?
I said spice.
One day we will get through some type of piece of content where you guys don't talk about the books that I read. I mean, I
We
brought it up
might.
this time, but still.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and then finally, if there are any things that you do to kind of get through burnout, right? Is there some sort of habit you do? Man, we want to hear about it. We're all kind of works in progress. So please let us know in the comments or reach out to us. So thank you so much for listening, Jade. As always, good stuff. And congratulations on all your work. All joking aside, Jade, on the work that you're doing for us. It was cool to see you recognized by the Online 18. So nice job.
Thanks.
All right.
Appreciate it.
You bet.
Bye, everyone. Have a great day.